Please be seated. Many of you know that I have 2 dogs, 2 Labrador retrievers, and every day they walk me. It's kind of like that. Bella Moorehead is almost 11, and she believes her purpose in life is to put all the squirrels up in the trees. Coley is 100 pounds of puppy. He thinks he's a puppy, but he's over a year old now. He's a chocolate lab. He could care less about the squirrels, but he loves people and he loves life. Every morning, those dogs are so joyful and so happy just to get outside. They inspire me daily. I want to feel the same joy, but sometimes I let that joy be stolen from me. Just a few days ago, they were walking me in the morning, and I saw a beautiful elderly couple walking by. Of course, Ella could care less. She was looking for the squirrels. But Coley saw them, and he got so excited, he started jumping up and down like this on all fours. And I made sure he didn't knock them over and pulled him back and said, "I'm so sorry. He still thinks he's a puppy." The elderly gentleman said, "Oh, let him be a puppy. Life is beautiful." And then they kept walking on. Sometimes in this world, it's hard not to let other people steal your joy. But God created us to be just like the joy of those puppies every morning. Every morning that the sun rises is a gift, something to be celebrated. You know, the Hebrew people were given such wonderful laws by God. All these complex laws, and it's amazing now that we read them in Leviticus and Numbers. It's amazing now that we understand something about science that God said things like, "Before you eat, wash your hands." And you know, villages would all die of sickness and the Hebrew people wouldn't die, and they'd say, "We're just doing what God told us to do." These laws were designed to protect the people, just like we want to protect our children, and we tell them not to run into the middle of the street, right? Jesus didn't get mad at a lot of people. He tended to be really forgiving. In fact, if you look at it, he really dined and ate with prostitutes and sinners and tax collectors. If you had made a mess, Jesus seemed to love you anyway. But there was one kind of person that really made him mad: the Pharisees. I think the reason the Pharisees made Jesus so mad is not because they were devout or followed the law. It was because they liked to shame people. They liked to steal people's joy. They didn't just try to teach about the law or guide people to practice it. They would wag their fingers, criticize, and make people feel small. In today's gospel, the Pharisees notice that some of Jesus' disciples have forgotten to wash their hands. They're so happy to be with him. They're so overjoyed, and they just start feasting. And the Pharisees say, in this sort of passive-aggressive question, "Why is it that some of your disciples don't wash their hands?" I know that you have Pharisees in your lives. I've got a few. Worst of all, most of us have a couple of them living up here, right? And we Pharisee ourselves. We say we didn't do it well enough. We messed up on this. We failed at that. We're not doing well enough at this or that or the other thing. In fact, I think the more successful a person is, the more they've got Pharisees up here, judging every little thing they do, tangling them up inside so that they can't feel joy at all because they're so worried about messing up all the time. We do that to ourselves, and it steals our joy. Shame steals joy. How many of you were able to see a part of John McCain's funeral? Wasn't that beautiful? Loved the National Cathedral. There's a story that John McCain told, and I even researched to make sure it was true. It looks like it really was true. When he was a prisoner of war in Vietnam, McCain was often in solitary confinement. And often the Vietnamese soldiers would tie him up as well. So he was bound by tight ropes as well as being alone. But there was this one Vietnamese guard. When no one else was present, when no one was looking, he would secretly loosen McCain's bonds. He would untie him a little bit. And McCain could not figure out why this one Vietnamese man was so kind to him, why he would let these bonds loose. And then one day, after the guard had loosened his bonds a little bit, the guard shut the gate, and McCain looked out and saw that the guard was doing something in the dust. He had bent down, and he was making the sign of the cross in the dust. When he saw that McCain had seen the cross, he wiped it away. That man knew that the love of Christ untangles us. It loosens our bonds. It sets us free to feel joy again. That's what God wants. God wants you to rejoice, to praise, to give thanks. God does not want you all tangled up inside Phariseeing yourself. And the love of Christ sets us free. One of my favorite movies is Glory Road. Have any of you guys seen Glory Road? It's an older movie. It's about the first college basketball team to recruit black players. And there's this funny scene of these two white guys in a bar going, I don't think they're going to be very good at basketball. But this coach goes to Chicago's inner city, and he goes to New York, and he sees these kids playing, and he recruits them to go to Texas Western University. They think they've gone to the moon. They are so good that they end up going to the national championship where they're playing the University of Kentucky. By this time, it's all about race. And these poor young kids are being hated. They're being booed. They have blood written on the walls of their hotel. They're scared, and they've begun to feel ashamed. The coach decides that on this final game, he's only going to play the black players. He's going to put it right out there. And he gathers the team together in a huddle, and he says to them these amazing words. He says, they are not going to give you respect. They are not going to give you your joy. So I want you to go out there, and I want you to take it. And all the players say, yeah, take it. And then they go out there and cream them. It's so good. This past week, there was something written in the Florida Times-Union that really got to me. A woman in the reader section wrote, after the shooting at the landing, she said, we should just give up on downtown. We should just forget about downtown. It's not worth it. It's a rotten core. It's always going to be crime-ridden, even though the guy was from Baltimore. And I felt for a minute a sense of loss and shame, and then I realized, I am not ashamed to be downtown. I am not ashamed to worship in a place that has diversity. I want to raise my children in a community that has all colors and Republicans and Democrats, and I want to teach my children what it's like to be homeless, what it's like to grapple with a mental health issue. I want them to know what it's like to live in a global world, and I'm proud to be down here. And I will not be ashamed. And I know you all drive from 23 different zip codes, so you can be here with black and white and Middle Eastern and gay and straight and old and young. I know you come here for a reason too. And this city will never thrive if we let the core rot, will it? I really do believe that God is calling us not to be ashamed and to reach out there and take our joy, take our love, to give thanks for all that we've been given. We're going to make this urban core something else. And I will not be Pharisee about it anymore. So, my friends, I don't want you to let anyone steal your joy, ever. You got it? You got it? Good.